it's like how you'd expect to spell it, really.
I might have expected a Y, but even so.
Oh, right, yeah.
Grice's maxims, okay. Um, well,
Yeah, on
there's.
Wikipedia, I don't like the way, I think it's the first maxim, which is basically don't lie. And it says you should only say something for which you've got evidence for, but I wouldn't say evidence because that sort of tricks people into positivism and this kind of thing, empiricalism, and obviously that's an assumption you don't need. So instead of that, most people refer to that maxim as you should only say something which you've got reason to say, good.
Yeah, let's see. Quantity. Um, be as informative as one possibly can, but no more than necessary. Be truthful, not give information false or unsupported. Um, relation, be relevant, and manner, be as clear, brief, and orderly, and avoid obscurity and ambiguity. So, I'm not sure I actually do any of them.
Yeah, there's it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I ramble on like there's no tomorrow and sort of go around the houses about things quite a lot. So, I think it's one of those things that, I prefer not to. I prefer to be a lot more, you know, clear and concise, but no one's perfect. It's one of them things. And again, there's a big thing about they say that, you can flout the maxims. We do it all the time. We say stuff like instead of saying instead of just giving a clear answer about something, we might just assert something else about the situation, implying that because that is the case, then the answer is obvious. And often it's not obvious, especially with the cultural, differences between people in a sort of global forum. But that this is, yeah, they're called flouting the maxims. It doesn't mean that you see if somebody seems to be breaking them. It doesn't necessarily mean they're being uncooperative. They might just have these sort of prior assumptions about things that maybe other people aren't sort of getting, or they may just be like me and a bit woolly-headed and just ramble on and needlessly a lot and sort of constantly be kicking themselves, but find it difficult not to. So yeah,
Mm, well, I'm not sure that I actually follow any rule in particular. Maybe I go by T.S. Eliot. There is no rule but to be very intelligent.
yeah, but
Or
that leads open all sorts of.
there's no method but to be very intelligent.
Right, yeah, yeah, that's fine because then that would sort of derive the rest of them. Um, yeah, I mean they're maxims, aren't they? They're like sort of things that we sort of ideally would hold. I mean, if somebody pulls me up and says, "Look, mate, you're rambling on like there's no tomorrow. Keep it short." I'm gonna keep saying, "Yeah, yeah, sorry, I'll really try," and keep trying to cut myself off a bit earlier and whatnot. So it's the kind of thing that if you point out to somebody, they should, if they're cooperative, for the most part, say, "Oh, right, yeah, sorry, this is what I meant," or "Oh, yeah, sorry, can I put that a clearer way? Sorry, I can't, can't quite get my head round a way of putting it clearer." So they'd sort of agree and sort of apologise and try to sort of correct for the most part.
Mm. Well, so what else think? You only have two thus far, or beyond me, Rodney. You have a soundboard of Bill O'Reilly? Oh dear.
Yeah, I found a soundboard of Bill O'Reilly the other day. Yeah, I just yeah. Um,
I'm Bill
Uh,
O'Reilly.
uh, yeah, careful. Let's not play any recordings in here. uh, it can get you in
I
trouble once you do.
yeah, no, I usually get carried away.
Yeah, in an off-air hangout, are you okay? On air, another story. Meantime, yeah, he's probably got quite a few, I don't know, almost Bushism quality blunders and so on. What is it? Gordon Klingenschmidt and Brian Fisher have quite a few zingers as well. If you care to go digging for them. I don't know that they're necessarily organized with soundboard. Not even sure what a soundboard is, but there are lots and lots of video clips of them saying, I guess, things so, I don't know, politically and religiously extreme that
Yeah.
they are humorously kind of, well, I guess humorous.
Yeah, I don't think we actually really have any kind of I'm trying to think like any kind of media network or something like that that is kind of all right, sit out, Chris. I don't think we have really any kind of media network that is really that biased. I mean,
Cheers,
I
Chris.
don't know. Yeah, sit out, Chris. Yeah, I really don't. I mean, Fox News is like we've got nothing like. I just can't think of really any of that. I don't know. Rodney is also English. I have to ask him as well. But no, I don't think we actually have anything like. Cut out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I have to refresh.
Welcome
Every
back.
t- every time I pull my wire out and I put it back in again, yeah, I can't actually hear anyone in the call. I don't know why that is. I think it's to do with the audio thing. But yeah, I don't think we have any kind of media network over here that's like Fox News or anywhere nearly as bad.
Well, you realize there's a court case in the U.S. that I guess makes just lying outright or kind of like deliberate misinformation, well, legally not fraud in the U.S.
Yeah. I mean, I think I remember a Fox News did this kind of they portrayed this study, and then it was when they called Bill Nye a science bully. I don't know if you watched that or remember that, and they showed a statistic or a study that that said this is how many people believe or accept global warming or climate change, and it turned out that a ridiculously small amount of people actually did believe in it or accepted it. Then I looked into the study a bit more, and I found out that actually the study that they did. What the question they asked the public was: is global warming affecting you? Is it affecting your life? Is it having any impact on your life? And I think for most people, they'd say no, even if they did believe in it, or accept it, So it's really kind of just sort of twisting the. I mean, because it's very, very different to ask the public, do you believe in global warming, or do you accept global warming, or do you think it's global warming is affecting your life? Because I think there's quite a lot of people would say, oh yeah, I believe in global warming, but I don't see how it's affecting my life at this direct moment, or that it's an impact to my life right now.
Granted. Global warming is kind of one of the nasty little eschatological issues that never seem to actually get resolved. Or even really seriously addressed.
Yeah. Why? I don't understand why I've seen such opposition to it in America. I don't understand. Like, what's the I don't understand. It's on Fox News. Why is this such opposition? I mean, I don't know. It's not something that's I kind of see that's really against the Bible, or because I've seen it quite a lot from Christians and yeah. I really don't understand why. I mean, yeah.
Capitalism. That's the objection. But undermine capitalism because, well, it can't really be addressed. Not some kind of almost socialistic action where, I guess, not fully laissez-faire, um, plutocratically favoring option. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think Obama has actually made progress or tried to address it. I don't really know too much about that, but I think he has done a little bit. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know why, like, yeah, Fox News especially. I mean, they're kind of, yeah.
They are, well, a bit beyond reactionary. Also, things like racist and everything else.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you even have really any kind of unbiased news station or
No,
media? Yeah,
it's
yeah,
all like, so far to the right you would have
yeah.
to spin around to the left 3 times to take a look at who's leading. So,
I mean, even the BBC over here isn't really the best. I mean, even the BBC isn't is really kind of they do show some sign of how they're a bit biased. What the thing that I've got annoyed about is when it comes to debates. This is kind of a bit off topic, but I've noticed that people say to the other side, well, you have presuppositions, you have um, a bias already, so your argument doesn't really count, right? And to my, I don't know if you'd agree with this, Nadia, but to my view on it is atheists or atheism. I think that they're more likely to go where the evidence points them towards it. So I think it's not just I don't know how to explain it, but it's not just people are blindly believing that there is no that uh, blindly lacking the belief in a god. It's just that there's no really good evidence or good reason to believe in one. So I mean, yeah,
yeah, I'd kind of agree with that, but the counterclaim is made, and there's false equivalence between the two sides.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't really know. I think so much of the arguments. Yeah, it's amazing to. I mean, how long have you been on Google Hangouts, Nadia? That- like throughout yeah
Getting,
throughout throughout your whole time on here.
I think, early 2012, so it's going on my 3rd year.
Oh, wow, yeah. I mean, has it not been like amazing to see like the arguments and debates cycle? Between different things. Do you see that? I see that quite a lot. Like I see some type of arguments coming in. For instance, the presup kind of coming in that will slowly die out, and there'll be a new argument or something. But I
Yeah,
have been amazed at how like it's cycled from different things. I mean, when I went into Google Hangouts, I usually thought it was going to be about sort of more arguments like ontological argument, transcendental argument,
Well,
calam.
transcendental is a precept, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And instead, it's kind of more sort of talking about, like you said, presup, and trying to define reasoning, define truth. Like I was trying to have a debate with this guy the other day, and we couldn't actually get past anything because we were debating about truth and knowledge and reality. And, it's I don't know, it's kind of yeah.
Well, I actually expected it for a few different reasons. One was, of course, turnover in people. Different people are going to come in and others leave, and those with experience and basically the same things, well, essentially, or those lacking experience in the same things will basically go out and repeat the same old stuff that others have done for a while. There's also, well, just plain
Nadia.
perennial issues. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, this guy called Malik wants a link.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I could could I give him a link, or are you trying to avoid him?
Uh, don't. Well, don't pass the link around yourself. I'll decide. But he's an okay guy. But the trick is, of course, don't want to hang out to fill up with atheists.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, want a bit of yeah, a bit of yeah, diversity, or I'm not, don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, I want to make sure I've got the next deist in before I add another atheist and so on.
Mhm. Yeah,
Especially because, a lot of times people run away or end up having something to do, and or somebody will start something up, and
yeah,
5 Christians run away at once over there. So it's
yeah.
so some other issues are perennial. Essentially progress doesn't get made, but people will, I guess, try to make progress on them. And, from time to time, maybe they'll have some kind of external, I don't know, stimulus that raises it as an issue. But even
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same people tend to repeat things time to time, and I'm used to that. I don't know. I've been doing things online since well, '93, and that and I guess what
Since
you might
then?
call Unix-based fora, like news groups. I guess you might call them IRC, and then occasionally mushes and mucks and so on for largely social reasons. But even so, some people could only be reached that way. Go ahead.
I know. I was just agreeing. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do find it amazing how it cycles. I mean, do you reckon it's oh, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's a bit of a not necessarily a diversion, but more kind of not really wanting to actually address the arguments, instead sort of trying to either shift the burden of proof, or I mean, for instance, I've got into a hangout with Brett King, and it's funny because Brett King is never ever, at least in my experience, and I know this is anecdotal, but Brett King is never on the defending side. He's always on the attacking, like asking people the questions, and do you understand? Like, usually in debate, there's someone attacking and someone defending, or and yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, he tends to adopt that posture and so on, and have things go off the rails that way. But even so,
have you had many conversations with him?
oh, a lot, yeah. Even had a one-on-one last night. And well, it's time for estrogen and progesterone. So, well, I will momentarily Turn the camera off. Okay. So you're saying about yeah, I've known Brett for a while, and
Yeah, I was just wondering, does he come off to you a little bit passive aggressive sometimes?
mm,
You know,
I don't worry
like,
about it much.
mm,
I
yeah,
guess maybe if I sat down and ticked off the boxes, you might qualify. But
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't really. I've watched a lot of videos where he's in them and stuff like that, but yeah, I haven't really spoke to him enough to really. Yeah. But from what I have from what I have spoke from what I have from my encounters with him so far, yeah, I do feel he may be a little bit passive aggressive. I don't know. But yeah. Do you also think that there are some just kind of irrelevant um, arguments? I mean, for instance, people arguing about evolution in terms of that's we don't see how that's a good argument for um, for either theists or you know yeah. I mean, I just don't see how that's relevant really. I mean, yeah.
oh, whoops, I think I made a mistake drawing things up. But yeah, I don't think it's very relevant either. I think I mean, in terms of social relevance, like, I mean, let's just think about like impact on society and so on and so forth. Evolution is like, well, some ancient origin, and well, what does it have to do with well the here and now? Not very much. Uh, I mean, antibiotic resistance. Well, strictly speaking, it takes evolution to account for the phenomenon. You know, it doesn't raise the issue very directly, and um, from that point of view, you end up with not too much worry about it. Now, the things like LGBT rights, on the other hand, well, it's literally life and death in a lot of cases. We don't have a transgender day of remembrance every year for nothing. So, yeah, reproductive rights. Well, okay, bring bring people into an existence of misery.
Yeah.
Of course, also immiserate the actual parent. Um, do that en masse. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Death with dignity, torturing the terminally ill,
Mm.
and maybe even
I
otherwise
mean,
inflicted. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think there's a real big problem. I mean, because even if we kind of get religion out of politics and or we have sort of a secular kind of um, a secular sort of country. I mean, England pretty much has a secular country, but America really doesn't. But even if you have that, people are still voting for things based on their religious beliefs. I mean, yeah,
Well, I've been voted off the island. All the discrimination protections in the U.S. are completely toothless. There's no genuine prospect of enforcement.
yeah, yeah. I mean, do you reckon if this is an interesting question? Do you reckon you would still be kind of debating or doing these things if everything was kind of a-okay?
No, I wouldn't be.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I see where you're coming from then, yeah. Quite a lot of people on here are kind of, yeah, doing something to sort of change things, and I mean, I do, I do somewhat do it for entertainment as well, and just because I enjoy, I enjoy it. But I think, yeah, there is definitely a need for it. I mean, yeah, I mean, even I try and even get, I don't even necessarily try and get uh, Christians to change their view on it, and necessarily a view on whether a God exists or their religion, more so just to try and vote sort of from a secular perspective. I've given them a scenario where they're in a country which is predominantly Muslim, and people vote for things based on their religion. And I say, well, if you're living in that society, would you like other people to vote based on their religion, or would you like for them to vote based from a secular perspective? And they'd obviously say, well, or most of them anyway, would obviously say, sure, yeah, I wouldn't want to people to vote from a secular perspective because it's something which is against, or something which they don't agree with. It's not their religion. And so I say, well, why should you vote for things like abortion and gay marriage and maybe euthanasia and these types of things? And there's tons of more things from a religious perspective, because you're essentially imposing your religious views on other people there, on other people that A, aren't religious, or B, just don't share the same religious views as you. But it is an interesting topic, because I mean, I'm not necessarily saying you should make it like illegal for the people to vote based on because then you kind of get into the realm of people voting based on their opinion. I mean, should we ban people from voting kind of subjectively when it comes to these things, like people voting against things just because they don't like it, not necessarily for very kind of good objective reasons? And I mean, that's a very kind of interesting topic, and I think quite a lot of people disagree with me on it, but yeah.
Yeah, I kind of regard it as a lost cause. I Well, granted, it's intermittent phenomena, so you're not getting a full picture of it all going on. But they have pretty much killed me. I have major medical conditions that require, well, the way health insurance works in the U.S., a gold-plated group health insurance plans from the Fortune 500 major blue chip companies to even survive at all. And I'm pretty much dying.
Wow.
My kidneys are failing worse every time.
Sorry to hear.
Yeah, the employment discrimination that's keeping me out of those Fortune 500 companies and jobs and so on. That ultimately comes from the Christian stigma against me and so on. That's lethal. And even if the healthcare system worked differently, wouldn't be the case. It's anti-communism. But why anti-communism? Well, because communists are atheists. And reap what you sow. Right?
Yeah. Um. I think, yeah, you're a communist, aren't you, Nadia? I think
Pretty much, yeah.
I've been kind of looking to that as well. I mean, I think it's very, very interesting. I mean, like, I don't really know that much about it, to be honest. What it kind of hello, Chile. How would you sort of define it?
Um, well, I'd say it's almost more Marxism than communism per se, but essentially I don't know, belief in, well, dictatorship is, the proletariat's a bit inaccurate, but maybe something more on the order of, in modern language, um, well, economic justice.
Mm.
So,
Would these types of things be owned by the government, like Apple and Walmart and these big companies? Would they be
yeah.
owned by the government? Wow. And so all the profit could go back into the society, not necessarily to a group of people. Or yeah, could could all the companies all the companies' profits go towards like taxes and instead of it going to a group of people?
Um, well, essentially, common good and so on, as opposed to, well, shareholders, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one argument I heard was that these companies wouldn't be as big as they are today if they lived in a if it wasn't a capitalist. Uh, do you know? Have you heard that? I mean, I don't really know really. What would you think? What did you think about that? Like, I think someone. Do you know ISIS? I think you spoke to him. He has a
I,
dog for an avatar.
oh,
ISIS.
ISIS, yeah,
I can't say
okay.
his name very well. Yeah, I was talking to him about it, and he said something along those lines, like these companies probably wouldn't be as big as they are. I mean, what would you say to that? I'm kind of curious, really, because I don't really kind of agree with uh, capitalism too much, to be honest. But I'm very interested in it. I mean, you have to admit there is such a negative view of of uh, of communism or not necessarily that, but would you agree with that? Like, there's such a negative
Yeah,
view.
yeah.
Do you think it's because people are just kind of sort of maybe kind of ignorant about it, a little bit?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Um, wow, somebody's downvoting all my videos. Anyway.
Wow.
I'd say, yes, there's that kind of bias against capitalism, or sorry, communism. Also, there's well, the notion about companies being smaller doesn't really sound really right. I mean, um, okay, as far as actual organizations, right?
Mm.
The sort of, I don't know, agency responsible for, let's say, making computer chips or, I don't know, building houses and so on. Well, some ways be bigger than any one is existent today, but since these, quote unquote, private enterprises would essentially be their equivalent, collectively
Mm.
would be the governmental agency or whatever.
Yeah.
You would, in size, kind of, well, be well around the sum total of them, but you'd also allocate resources differently. You would maybe not necessarily have quite as big companies. I don't know, building yachts for rich people and
Yeah. I
having
mean,
being
yeah.
posh hotels for billionaires and so on, charging $25,000 a day.
Yeah. I mean, today you have these huge companies, like massive, like and then they're not paying their taxes. They're trying to avoid that. I mean, that is just so wrong. I mean, we have it in the UK quite a bit. We have people, um, like trying to we had them open banks in different countries, trying to sort of avoid paying taxes. And you know, when society has kind of has funded them, and they're taking away some of the the kind of not necessarily audience, but the customers from other businesses that would pay taxes. They need to contribute back and pay, just pay their taxes because, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's all. That's kind of my sort of view. I mean, just imagine if that's just my view of it. Like, I was thinking, imagine if these companies were owned by the government, what you could do with all the money, the profit from it, that will go back into society, and
Why
and
would why would profit even be a consideration?
oh yeah, oh yeah, exactly, yeah,
You
yeah,
can, well, let's say something to build houses, right?
mm,
You could literally operate the quote unquote venture at a loss in order to provide people housing. Why not?
yeah. I mean, I think when there's profit involved, you start to get kind of people that maybe are trying to do things. For instance, in the I'm pretty sure in America the jail system is a profitable business, or
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah. So when there's that, there's kind of there's people going away for just ridiculous things. There's quota, not necessarily quotas, but you have to sort of get a certain amount of people um, uh, locked up or a certain, So then,
Yeah, police
yeah,
have, what is it? I guess quotas on a number of different kinds of, I guess, what are they called? Well, they have to catch some number of people committing
yeah,
crimes.
yeah.
They also have, in terms of prosecutions, there's kind of a quote unquote punishment reward system in terms of funding, so to speak, for how many convictions are go on, and prisons, of course, are allocated funding and such for on the basis of number of
Mm,
prisoners, and the prisons also recoup the profits of prison labor.
mm. And do you not also
And
have some? Sorry, go on. Sorry.
no, it actually gets interesting here in terms of prison labor. The law that actually amendment to the Constitution of the U.S. that supposedly outlaws slavery actually has a caveat, namely,
Wow.
except as a punishment for a crime.
Mm,
Oh,
yeah.
you see it coming, right? And given the kinds of sort of physical powers or legally able to exercise with people, I mean, they pretty much put stun belts on the prisoners and zap them if they're not fast enough on the assembly line.
Wow.
Um, well,
I mean,
most of the citations I can actually dig up are chain gangs, but still.
yeah. Aren't there also some privatized prisons that the government pays them to sort of keep the keep the prisoners, and are there not some sort of private companies as well that do that?
Right, yeah. And the private companies, when there are rewards at a private company, you have a very interesting sort of, well, whatever kind of perverse incentive. And what ends up going on is that the prisoners end up being, I guess, cited for various kinds of offenses committed while incarcerated. And from there, well, who is doing the policing? Well, a private company. And who prosecutes, has the evidence? Well, okay, that's still a public institution, but the at least police end of that is the private company itself, right? So they can rig things in their favor that way too. It's really perverse in the U.S.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, over here we have kind of the opposite. I mean, we lose money from the prison sort of. I don't know if you call it system. Yeah, I was about to call it business. I don't know if you really call it business. I think it more is a business over there. But I mean, we I think the best place to stay is really kind of neutral, not making money and not losing money. Then there's not kind of, oh, we don't want to get too many prisoners because we're going to lose money, and that's more money from taxes going towards that, or we want to we want to get more money from or we want to get more prisoners in prison to make more money. Yeah, I don't think quota was the correct word I was using. I don't know, but yeah, police do have a certain amount of people they have to catch to yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, I think over here it's like £70,000. I don't know what that is in the US for um to look after a prisoner for 1 year. I mean that's a lot. That's a lot of money. Um, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't even really necessarily agree with prison too much. I think there should be more kind of um, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, maybe kind of community service, or I don't really know. That's also kind of a sort of controversial thing as well. But I mean, something where yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult topic, really. I mean, most of the things that people are put in prison for, you know, are rather kind of menial stuff, or just sort of yeah, rather trivial. I mean, for instance, weed and yeah, these types of things. I mean, they're really not kind of a big deal,
Well,
at least to me anyway.
they're a big deal in terms of how much selective enforcement of sort of contraband laws and so on are going on. Also, in terms of how dire of trauma is done to people, all this. And, it's all really bad. And again, the retribution is justified with what are relatively peripheral, but still religious dogmas really feed into it pretty heavily. Oh, welcome back, Rodney.
Yeah.
I think one of them is, of course, free will. Is very little understanding of mitigating factors. There's also very little, I don't know, understanding of, just using effective methods. Deterrence is demonstrably, ineffective. And when you, want to go repair these things, you're essentially stuck doing it after the fact. And the ways of dealing with it are, basically, psychiatric, not further traumatizing. Where maybe less of an issue in the U.S. Over here, it's like, mass institutionalized rape or something. So anyway, yeah. Well, that's some of what I think about the influence of religion on society.
Yeah, I think there's a really massive influence. I mean, even in the UK. I mean, yeah, Yeah, not so much over here, but there's quite a big influence or Rodney. I was going to ask you a question. Is there any kind of news station or media network over here that's kind of really biased? I mean, arguably the BBC is quite biased, but any news station over here, would you say that's you can compare to Fox News or?
Yeah, I think the BBC is sort of our equivalent. You know, it's a arm of the government which propagandizes the population. So yeah, I think in a lot of respects, the BBC's worse, see, because we're forced to pay a TV license. It's like
Yeah,
a
I was just about
tax.
to say that as well.
Yeah,
Even
and
if you don't watch it, yeah.
yeah, you know, they make some all right TV. So you know, I suppose that's
Yeah,
how
yeah.
everybody justifies it. We get things like Sherlock Holmes
Oh
and
yeah.
Doctor Who, and yeah.
Yeah.
So we justify it to ourselves that you know it's all worth it for these sorts of programs that we get. We do get some half decent documentaries as well about sort of non, you know, issues that don't really matter. You know, well even so, you know, a lot of the we get a lot of good wildlife documentaries, which you know a lot of people find interesting, but they are heavily biased from the evolutionary point of view. You know. But you know, I think it's people like it. You know, we get some good filmography of the you know of nature and whatnot. So yeah. Part of the major concern that people have with where there's two aspects really, well, there's three main aspects. A, you know, really it's a like a big brother, an Orwellian sort of nightmare, really. You know, it's a branch of the government which propagandizes us to believe what they want us to. Seems to be recently it's come up that there's a lot of paedophilia in the BBC, so they're actually abusing children. Um,
Wow.
yeah. Well, you've had the Jimmy Savile case, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
that's pretty much, no one denies that was happening, and he was like he was good. Jim will fix it. He'd go around to children that were basically in some sort of need and sort of make all their dreams come true. And you know, when you think about that was the nature of the show that he had on for years and years, and he was abusing a lot of these children sexually. It turns into a bit of a nightmare.
Mm,
And that's all admitted. You know, that's not a
yeah.
secret. Nobody denies any of that. What is see since then though a lot of other concerns have been raised and allegations have been made about the BBC in general being having a cesspool of paedophilia at its core, and you know there's a lot of controversy going on, and it doesn't get shown on the BBC obviously. You know, so a
Yeah.
lot of
What would
people
you say, Roddy? What would you say the kind of political agenda is, or their kind of what bias do they have in terms of their political views? Would you say they're more kind of yeah? How would you what would you say about that?
well, it's a kind of consumerist statism that they're guiding the population towards. So it's a dumbing down of society into the acceptance of a ruling by their betters. They're not even into democracy. What they're into is having a group of people that know better than them, and the acceptance of their rulership over us because they know better. You know, so that's what you know. I don't think they're necessarily you know a conservative, Labour, you know, Lib Dem. I don't think they care. You know who's in power as long as it's that they've got this sort of you know
I have
corporate state.
noticed, yeah, yeah, I
Sorry,
have noticed BBC Three is more kind of liberal, more kind of sort of uh, appeals to that sort of demographic, or I have noticed that with BBC Three, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they try and yeah, you're right. They do try and sort of portray themselves as sort of they've got these overtones of power to the people, and they come up more so in on different channels than others. But part of a lot of what they do is like, look, there's a lot of like programs on that sort of mock politicians and the sort of ruling class, and
Oh yeah, it's in the revolution thingy, that program on BBC Three. It was
yeah.
the revolution will be filmed or something, and it was just basically these yeah, I don't know,
Hugo
yeah,
Chavez?
yeah. I think they went around parts of America, and it was really it's quite funny. I don't know, but there is definitely kind of a a bias or I don't know there. But I mean, it is kind of hard with what you were saying about evolution, the kind of that kind of bias, because that is really kind of more of a sort of. I mean, if we had
Oh,
to sort of include every
welcome,
single.
Michael. Damn it.
Oh, Michael left. If we had to sort of also include every other kind of possibility or theory, it would be quite hard. But no, I do agree with you to an extent there, Rodney. Yeah.
Well, when I say these things, people often sort of misinterpret that. I don't think we should include any other. You don't necessarily. I don't mean let's give all possible explanations sort of equal time. No, that's ridiculous. What I believe is we should be more scientific about it. We shouldn't give evolution to. It's all painted from an evolutionary point of view. It's all like survival of the fittest. There's the struggle of life. Um, evolution itself doesn't necessarily mean that is the kind of way in which it works anyway. We just don't know that much about it.
But
So I
it
think,
is the best. It is the best thing we have got, and the best kind of theory, if you like, of that we've got so far.
well, it's the only theory, it's the only scientific, naturalistic way in which we could describe this sort of, well,
Welcome, Michael.
there's lots of ways, isn't there, of framing these sorts of things, and there's lots of evolutionists which are not so tooth and claw. They don't see evolution as that kind of setup. So there's ways of doing it, and I think we should just be a little bit more scientifically politically correct about how we describe things from a scientific point of view. If you look at scientists, they don't say this sort of. That's not a scientist talk. This is a layman talk. They get a scientific ideology in their minds, and then they turn it into a kind of prose. They make it a lot more colourful, and they make it a lot more extreme. And this is what we see from the BBC with these sort of nature programmes, as opposed to like if it was a scientist describing this, they would be a lot more sort of matter of fact and tentative, and how they phrase what it is they're saying. It would be a lot more of a descriptive thing about what's going on, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think we overdo evolution from a certain perspective, and it's not even it doesn't. This is fair enough. I mean, these people aren't. They are for the most part creative writers, and that's how they justify this sort of thing, and that's fair enough. But I just think that it's a little bit overdone. If you were to take a random selection of people, I mean, we often get these characters, don't we? That then they just do all the science programs, all the nature programs. You have one person that just does it all for like a lifetime, pretty much, and so they can justify that as well.
Brian Cox.
Yeah, he seems he's good from his point of view, but he's got a lot of quirks to him, and he's got a lot of irrationalities to him as well, and he's a bit silly in a lot of ways, which is fair enough. We're all colourful characters, but from my point of view, I don't think that that's all just the way the cards have fallen. I think that they've specifically selected him because of them attributes, and because that is in alignment with the kind of thing that they believe. And so we can accept it from one person as like, yeah, okay, yeah, everybody's got their own sort of preconceptions and idealistic ways of looking at the world, and Cox fits this sort of wide-eyed, everything's wonderful, but it all makes perfect naturalistic sense, sort of schoolboy attitude towards physics, and that's all really good, and it appeals to a lot of people. I find that a lot of his viewers tend to be people like my mum. They find him quite endearing, and they think that he's quite attractive, and that sells physics to them, and that's a good thing. I don't deny that. But what I don't think is a good thing is that they've specifically selected someone like him because his essential assumptions fit with the BBC propaganda that they're trying to offload onto people, which aren't necessarily true. So we're believing when he talks about physics and the physical theories, he talks it as a physicist. But then, as he's fitting in, as he's going between these subjects and making little offhand jokes around the side, that's when he's offloading all his sort of assumptions. That's fair enough. That's how he is. That's his personality. But people then believe that kind of thing is being spoken of as a physicist. That these are somehow ring more true than what they would if you just heard someone off the street saying them. But when he's talking about these offhand things, it is like he's just someone off the street saying them. That's not where
Hi,
he's at.
Runga.
So that's my concern. They do that. All right. Yeah. Sorry. Just
No worries.
I'm a bit of a rambler.
Maybe we should ask Michael how the news is in New Zealand, if there's anything that's as biased as Fox News is in the U.S.
Yeah, they're all biased.
As biased as Fox News? And in the same direction?
Probably not, but it's all propaganda as far as I'm concerned. But no, not as biased as Fox, no. We basically just get sound bites of what you get in the States and in England, really, and then a bit of local news. I get my news off the internet. I don't even have a TV. Haven't had one for 10 years, so you're probably asking the wrong person.
Yeah, I have not lived a luxurious enough life to have a television.
You're not missing out on anything.
Maybe I am, but I'll never know.
I like NPR. NPR is my kind of go-to source for at least less biased news.
What's that, bro?
What
National
about Russian
Public
Today?
Radio.
Oh, yeah. We get BBC here, which I'll listen to that. That's not too bad. BBC News.
Yeah, NPR gets compared to BBC a lot of times.
What about Russian Today? Would you say that's biased or?
I don't get that.
I'm not familiar with it myself.
How about Al Jazeera?
Yeah, I picked a lot of stories that a lot of the mainstream media won't touch, but they are biased sort of against the West in general. I think so. They do pick up a lot of these stories that as officialdom won't touch, but then they're not very balanced either.
Yeah.
What about well, the Al Jazeera?
Yeah, I like that. I've got that bookmarked. I think it's best to try and get news from different sources and then try and make your own mind up on it.
Yeah, I think that's all we can really do, isn't it? We sort of, have a link into these sort of places which are sort of conflicting against each other. Al Jazeera, Russia Today, they're going to pick up a lot of stories that our media are just scared to go near, and but they won't touch the ones that are sort of more pro stuff, which our officialdom are like blurting out left, right, and centre. But yeah, if you pick them all up and see the kind of stories they're running with, you can sort of get a fairly good overview of current events.
Oh, Veckel, do you have any? Oh, hi, Veckel. Do you have any favorite, foreign news sources that you go to?
Any favorite what?
Foreign news sources that you go to, or alternative news sources?
No, I don't really look at that stuff except for the BBC. Maybe is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Well, that could be one.
Yeah, I don't really. I go to anyone that speaks English, I guess. I
I
watch a
actually,
lot of foreign films, though. I do watch a lot of foreign films.
yeah.
Most
Well,
Korean. But
it was a little bit about the news in particular, though.
what was the news?
Well, like the news reporting and whether the news is biased and so on, like in terms of keeping up with current events and
Oh,
knowing what's going on in the world. Um, well, I can rattle off a list of things I at least used to go through. Well, one of the things I actually thought was particularly pertinent was the language barriers being used as kind of device to, well, insulate people from, certain events and so on. So I went out to, things like France 24, El País, La Jornada, Der Spiegel, Taz, Le Monde Diplomatique. Did I say France 24 already? RAI, and La Repubblica for, I guess, news from different points of view or whatever. Of course, Russia Today and Al Jazeera were in the mix as well. So that's a little bit of how I kept up with it, but I went actually further afield. And we'll kind of dig up, essentially from Google News, I'd look for things that look like native, sources of news from maybe various countries. So I found out about like these Pakistani power outages, and who knows what kind of bizarre things going on in Thailand with their red shirts, yellow shirts, and well, actually, it was less praised in terms of that than the allegations against how do I pronounce that? Yingluck Shinawatra, something like that. So you get the idea. And of course, instability in Thailand has major impact on people like me because, well, we all know what's going on there.
but in Thailand?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what's going on there.
Well, that's where the doctors are, who, for the right price, can make anyone,
Be someone else.
be they born male or female, come out looking just like Angelina Jolie. So.
Ah, it's kind of creepy how they can do that.
Well, facial feminization surgery and, well, breast augmentation and, of course, reconstructive surgery downstairs. So, yeah. But unfortunately, you have to go to South Korea for the voice. Or actually, the UK kind of sort of has something, but
They can't do that over there in Thailand. Do everything else there. They can't do the voice.
No, they don't. They don't really have it. Or at least if they have, I haven't heard of it.
Hmm.
It's in freaking South Korea and the UK. Yeah. Charing Cross has been doing this cricket thyroid approximation, and South Korea is a big pioneer in laser-assisted voice adjustment. And I think the American ones, and I can't even find who they are, but even so, do what's called feminizing laryngoplasty. So. That stuff is, well, forever beyond my reach. So. In the meantime, yeah, tracking Thailand is important.
Mm.
And, well, what other news do we go to? How about you, Runga? Or did you already go through?
Randy,
I've been pretty much out of the loop, but my contribution was that I like NPR when I do listen to the news.
Okay, I remember that
I think
now.
they tend to address topics pretty level-headed, and it seems to me that they always try and present both sides of a given issue, the actual sources, rather than just going on a bunch of hearsay or having a bunch of talking heads sit around saying, well, some people are saying X, Y, and Z, and not actually sourcing things.
Has anyone heard of selective exposure theory? I brought it up recently, but not sure if people noticed the link.
what about your... Sorry, idea.
The selective exposure theory is that people kind of seek out sources of information that sort of confirm their pre-existing beliefs and such. And avoid ones that contradict it, or contradict them. Kind of the way we seek out
How is
things
that
online too.
different than confirmation bias?
Yeah.
Well, confirmation bias is kind of I think it's the incorrect description of something actually confirming what you wanted to find in the first place. You didn't choose the information, but you interpreted it wrong. And in this, you are actually like picking and choosing the information that comes in. So they kind of complement each other, and probably both at once. It makes it for a particularly potent bulletproofing of one's ideas against any challenge.
What about your newspapers over there? We have very biased newspapers. Rodney, you'd agree with that, wouldn't you? Like the Daily Mail and the Sun.
Yeah, I mean, some of the sort of broadsheet papers weren't too bad, but I mean, they're not that much better either. Yeah, I think, it's the kind of mass media spectrum of information that we get is for the most part, you've got to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. If you really are interested in a particular story, you've got to sort of do your own sort of research, check out the sources, and find other, sources of the story, and you've got to just do your own research. Basically, you may as well have heard it in a pub. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean even the Times as well.
The Guardian used to be not too bad, and then there was the Observer as well. But yeah, nowadays is pretty much it's basically pub news that are just with bigger words for the most part.
Is it any better in the US?
I think it actually is. I think the newspapers in the U.S. are kind of, well, far blander than almost not to really have a genuine opinion apart from kind of a vague right-wing bias. Well, vague, but still strong.
I mean, for the most part, I don't actually. Yeah, I've given up reading or watching the news for a long time. If I hear something, generally people will talk about things which have been sort of highly confirmed and important, in any non sort of trivial way. So, I'll come across this sort of news and then I'll look at various sources of information for that and look into it. But for the most part, I just But for the most part, yeah, right, I just don't even bother looking at the news. So. Yeah, I'm not really a good person to really. I'm very cynical about that anyway. So.
You think online newspapers are a different story? What's that?
Sorry, guys, I got to go. Got it. Cool. Thanks for the invite.
All right.
I'll hop back and see.
Yeah. Cheers. Do you think?
No, I think that the online sort of news presence is even worse. Most of it's just regurgitated from the big news providers, and where it isn't, you're often dealing with people that don't even know how to report the news, and they may believe that they're an alternative, unbiased, sort of gold standard, but that they don't really know what they're doing, and they're really just propagating their own preconceptions and biases for even worse than the news. They might have good intentions, but you know what they say about the road to hell. Yeah, but there are a couple that do stand out. I'm not completely cynical. There's things like the fifth column where they actually seem to know what they're doing and they're very careful about, being checking their sources and getting both sides of the story. You got to remember as well that sometimes that things seem like quite equally balanced, but on the one side of things it's just not even news. But then if it has happened, then it's a very serious affair. So we should be biased towards towards these sort of things. So. It's decision theory, isn't it? So.
In the U.S., like most of the there went Carlson. That's where everyone went. In the U.S., like most of the things are regurgitated from the Associated Press, Reuters, and Agence France. And given that this is failing to attract an audience, or rather participants even. Well, audience for participants. Should we just head over to Carlson's?
Yeah, Reuters is basically, you trace it all back to that, and then it's like, well, where did that come from? Anyway, yeah, change subject if you want.
Well, no,
most of us don't even watch the news and aren't that much interested in it, don't trust it anyway, so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because there are like some sort of journalists that are doing it. Usually, I mean, especially in the Daily Mail, you have one journalist and they're kind of reporting about it, and it's no longer just telling you how the news is going, but more kind of to do with their preconceived, view of it. Instead of just the actual news, it's more kind of their view on the news.
Well, should we invade Carlton's hangout?
It's a bit of a strange title. Could do. I'm not bothered. I'm easy going.
Yeah, I'm not bothered as well. I mean,
darn it, doesn't pop up in the invite menu anymore. Well, that makes it inconvenient. Or at least hurts the switch and whatever. Okay, anyway. Yeah. Nobody likes my hangouts anyway, so.
I like a hangout, Sally.
Okay, well.
Yeah, I like them.
Audience.
People wouldn't be here. You always have very full hangouts, Nadia. And they go on for hours and hours.
Yeah, true.
I haven't come on here and you haven't had a hangout running. You know, it's definitely been good and always good conversation as well. Nadia, the
Yeah.
master of hangouts.
Given that
Absolutely.
there are 6 of us, better move over soon. As soon as the 5th person arrives, we're crowded out. So.
All right, yeah, let's move over then. Yeah, all right.